Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Saez. Today, I wanted to talk about the pound for pound champ of the world, Canelo Alvarez. Him and his relationship with Eddie Hearn, I think at the end of the day, is going to be monumental. I like the way Eddie Hearn right now and Canelo are kind of aligning with one another. And this move today, the content that I stumbled upon online, where Canelo Alvarez jumped on the Mike Tyson hot boxing podcast, I think was very interesting. And I kind of want to talk about the implications of the whole thing and pretty much how I feel the relationship's going to unfold. We only know Canelo under one promoter, and that's under Golden Boy. You've heard the rumors, you saw the tumultuous relationship between Golden Boy and Canelo Alvarez. We thought it was DAZN and Canelo Alvarez. However, we would later on it would later be told and discovered that Golden Boy and Canelo were truthfully the two at odds. Canelo Alvarez, hands down, right now, in my opinion, is number one pound for pound. You can arguably say Terrence Crawford, but I'm just going to sit here and say it's Canelo Alvarez. So let's just kind of put that to bed. But the reason why I think the relationship's going to be big, one, immediately in the Hot Boxing podcast, I liked the fact that Canelo is expanding his audience and expanding his brand essentially by trying to speak English. Canelo Alvarez never really tried. He would have pockets where he would show that hey, he's a little proficient in English, but I think the fact that he was so brave to speak English for the majority of this interview, and I'm kind of going to touch on the interview as well, but the fact that he did that is it's immediately evident that Eddie Hearn knows what he's doing. Eddie Hearn is trying to make Canelo a massive worldwide star. And if he can add English to the repertoire, brands are going to be approaching Canelo Alvarez because boxing is hot. He's the best boxer in the world and clearly the hottest commodity in boxing outside of Floyd Mayweather and perhaps even Manny Pacquiao to a certain degree in terms of star power. Who knows? I mean, Canelo's probably bigger than Manny Pacquiao right now in terms of relevancy, especially since Manny Pacquiao hasn't fought since the Keith Thurman fight. So, regardless of the fact, I think the marriage is going to end up being prosperous. Reason being is when he's talking to Mike Tyson on the podcast, he talks about how he wants to fight the best. He said he doesn't matter who it is, whoever has a belt, whoever's going to build his legacy. He says he wants to fight them, and I like the fact that Canelo not only says it, but he actually does it. He mentioned that he fought Callum Smith. He was the number one at 168 in terms of rankings. A lot of people thought Canelo and Callum Smith would be a difficult fight. Canelo Alvarez easily disposed of Callum Smith. You guys know the drill. Broke his bicep, broke him down, and it was just a dominant decision. Excuse my voice. I'm feeling a little hoarse. I'm not feeling too well today, but I wanted to get this out because truthfully, I really did enjoy this podcast and what's going to kind of unfold from it, right? Then Mike Tyson was kind of talking to him about what matters to him. Who did he watch? Who inspired him? And I think Canelo touching on the fact that Eddie Reynoso, Canelo's trainer, who also, I don't know, but Eddie Reynoso is so fucking cool. I don't know why. I like his whole demeanor. He's very chill, but at the same time, he has a little bit of swag in the sense that he knows like he has the best fighter in the world, but at the same time, humble enough to know that there's more to learn and he's gonna get Canelo better because under Eddie Reynoso, you know that Canelo has gotten substantially better. Chepo, his dad, awesome trainer, but you can't deny that Eddie Reynoso has made a bunch of fighters better. Oscar Valdez, Canelo Alvarez, guy is on fire, and right now is probably the front runner to win Trainer of the Year. So it was kind of cool to see them and their dynamic, and you clearly can tell that they have a good camaraderie and good relationship. Both Eddie and Canelo, it's almost like they can finish each other's sentences at this point, and it's a happy marriage. So I did like that in the interview as well. Um, Mike Tyson asked Canelo how does he stay motivated and when he thinks about shouldering a country and a legacy so esteemed as the Mexican style, How does he feel about that? And Canelo kind of touched on it and said, "Hey, look, he just prepares. He and something I also like that he said was he's a boxer. Mike Tyson kept asking him, "What are you doing outside of boxing? And are you doing this? What's going on?" And Canelo, quite frankly, said, "Look, I invested my money in certain things that are going to help me after boxing. But other than boxing, I'm a boxer. This is what I want to do. This is what I love to do, and this is my first love. I'm going to give it all." And I get that. I really do respect that. It looks like Canelo is about his business and he's always in shape, never comes out of shape, always sharp, staying active. And I love the fact that the boxing is what matters. I feel nowadays, especially with post Mayweather era, he everyone's thinking about big picture brand. Oh, I got to do this. I got to sell. I got to sell. I got to sell. But at the end of the day, Mayweather, the Canelos of the world, even Manny Pacquiao, they put the work in, and boxing is their first love and something that they give their blood, sweat, and tears to. It's not, oh, I'm using boxing as a platform to sell my tequila or X. Canelo's not doing that. Clearly, he's about boxing. He's a boxer first, and everything else falls second. I'm not going to sit here and say that family is not important or anything like that because it does matter to him, and that's something he also touches on too. His family is very important to him, but he also knows that boxing is the way that he could help his family. So he knows that boxing is his first love, and he has to focus and can't get distracted. And it's hard. It is for him, but he knows at the end of the day, he's doing the best for him and his family and his future. Because at the end of the day, even Mike Tyson mentioned this as well, it all comes to an end. Every every hero story ends. And at the end of Canelo Alvarez's career, he can't fight forever. He's 30, right? And in 7 years, he'll be 37, is when he said he wants to retire. So think about this. We have Canelo Alvarez right now in the prime of his life, almost peaking, getting better every year. He hasn't even, in my opinion, hit his full prime. I think it's only going to get better and better, especially with recovery techniques and just finding more about your body. It looks like he's felt comfortable at 168. So I can see Canelo Alvarez having a long career. Mike Tyson said, "What's next for you?" And he said he's not interested in moving to 175, which I agree with. He said it's just too hard to go up. And yes, he fought Sergey Kovalev, but he just said it's too hard. The guys are too big, and it's very, very difficult for him to go to that weight. And I think if he goes up to 107, if goes up to 175 pounds, he could potentially cross someone that can deal with his head movement and potentially hurt him. So I think it's smart that he's going to stay down, and he knows that at 168 and 160 pounds, it's going to help him preserve his career and his longevity. I did like Henry Cejudo being there as well. Henry Cejudo was kind of the moderator slash co-host, and I like the direction that the podcast with hot boxing is going. And I'm not trying to denigrate or disrespect the old host. I thought the old host did bring a certain dynamic that was cool at the time in the beginning of the podcast. It's cool with Mike Tyson and him. We're just kind of shooting the shit, having random guests here and there. But now that I like that Mike Tyson is actually making the podcast more boxing oriented, where there are more stars coming on. There's the legit fighters coming on that are trying to talk about boxing. And if you're gonna bring a diehard kind of audience and appeal to, in my opinion, more of the masses, people want to see Mike Tyson talk to these fighters. They want to see Mike Tyson kind of go off the cuff and do what Mike Tyson does. I felt like the other moderator, he's a great guy, and I don't dislike him, but I felt like a lot of the times he was trying to impose his own little agenda and what he's interested in. He's very chill, very free flowing, very um, oh, how'd you experience this? And talking about trips and LSD and other things like that. And I think it's kind of nice to kind of move away from just talking about the marijuana and the smoking. And I'm not against it. I'm not against anything that people do. Whatever you do in your house or by yourself in your free time, you're an adult. Do whatever you got to do. But in terms of a boxing podcast, I felt like this is kind of the direction that they need to go in. Sure, it was a little raw in the beginning when you had the Teofimo Lopez's and the Ryan Garcias on it, and you could kind of see that Mike Tyson really hadn't found this flow. But in this podcast, I really like the fact that everyone, even though there was a clear language barrier, even Henry Cejudo kind of being in the MMA world, there was some weird synergy that happened that made it just work. And I was very, very happy to see it. I saw it early in the morning. I wasn't feeling that great. So I decided, hey, let me just go outside and watch this. And it ended up being very, very good. And it was a good piece of content. So now I kind of want to get off the podcast because you guys can watch it. Go watch it. If you're not, it's on YouTube. Mike Boxing, Mike Hot Boxing podcast. Phenomenal podcast. It's gotten very, very good in my opinion, and it's moving in a better direction. So definitely follow that guy on Mike Tyson. Very happy for him and what he's built, and the fact that he's kind of gained the wherewithal that I'm not sitting here and saying again about the other co-host, but you're motherfucking Mike Tyson. Come on, you don't really need some guy to kind of tell you about his experiences with psychedelics and kind of take away from what you want to talk about. When you say Mike Tyson, right? You think boxing, and if you're going to have a Mike Tyson podcast, you want it to be the hottest boxing podcast, in my opinion. Um, so I'm glad it's going in that direction. Okay, so now the marriage of Eddie Hearn and Canelo. I think at this point, Eddie Hearn is making a very, very wise decision. Canelo Alvarez is a massive star. People know him as the number one pound for pound, and people do know that he was the face of the Zone, the international platform that was trying to disrupt the pay-per-view model and the network television model for boxing. If you don't know, Box Nation was kind of the first one that was a pure streaming service, in my opinion. I could be wrong. And then you have the UFC Fight Pass and a bunch of other kind of, I don't want to sit here and say copycat, just similar. They're similar kind of platforms, but I feel like the Zone was the one that kind of went mainstream and went after the big players in the division, the HBOs, the Showtimes, etc. So now that they know the Zone is an international platform, I think they're really, really going to try to expand that presence. The major issue for, in my opinion, for a lot of Latin fighters and foreign fighters is they never really try to cross over and try to learn the language. And I get it. Maybe we should also learn their language. And in America, we are a very single language oriented population. English is the primary language, and we feel like everyone should kind of know English. It's not right, it's not anything, but in terms of business, you kind of have to take the climate and read your room. Canelo Alvarez is a fantastic fighter and a crossover fighter. He has the good looks, he has the talent, he has the the swag. He essentially is the perfect package for a boxer if you're ever going to promote someone. One of the main flaws was the fact that he only spoke Spanish. So I know Spanish, but someone else may not. There comes a point where, in order for a broader audience to connect with you, especially in America, you could speak English, even if it's a little broken. People kind of, you get rid of that wall between the two. They see that you're trying, and you kind of ingratiate yourself into the culture. And now I think it's going to expand his star power even more because, given the fact that in the UK, Matchroom Eddie Hearn is huge. So if you add English to the repertoire, then you add another continent to your star power. People know you, they like your boxing ability, but they really don't know you if you can't effectively communicate. And translators, as much as they try, can never really make it feel as if it's the real person. When even if you say it the wrong way, or you really don't kind of capture what you're trying to say the right way, it still makes people endearing to you. So I think Eddie Hearn, Canelo, the star power is only going to rise, and the fights are only going to get bigger now because your star power is bigger. And I think it's a great move. And whoever's around Canelo, you have to sit here and say that they're smart. Getting rid of Oscar, getting rid of all that drama, getting rid of the middleman that's essentially creating resistance in your own career, especially when you're in the biggest contract of your life. You're on the platform that everyone's talking about. They're making it seem like you don't want to fight X for X because of backroom deals. And I don't know. It just, it just didn't sit right with me when he was with Golden Boy. Canelo Alvarez, you're the golden goose of boxing. You shouldn't be dealing with headaches. I mean, you already know the top ranked sagas and whatnot. You just don't want to deal with that. And I'm kind of ashamed for Oscar that he went through all these promotional problems, right? And it's the reason why he started Golden Boy. It's the reason why he thought of breaking free, doing your own thing, and being your own boss. However, the fact that he ended up becoming like the person that he despised, it I feel bad for the guy because truthfully, it's hard to feel bad for someone with millions of dollars, but when you kind of go against what you stand for, in my opinion, was it worth it? Because his reputation, his golden boy aura is gone in my opinion. Because you tried jipping Canelo, um, you tried basically shortchanging Ryan Garcia. I shouldn't say jipping. I apologize for that. He tried shortchanging Canelo. I I don't know. It kind of is a bad look, but I'm happy that Eddie Hearn, I'm sure, has his own inner workings and isn't perfect like every promoter. But if Canelo's happy and we're not hearing that the biggest star in boxing is disgruntled about who he's fighting and not getting paid what he's worth, in his opinion, in terms of star power, why not promote Canelo in a better way so he could actually earn and make the money that he wants? So I'm looking forward to the Canelo fight with BIlly Joe Saunders. I think that's going to be a massive fight. The promotion has already started clearly, and everyone's getting hyped. That fight in Florida was a stay ready fight. Try not to pay too much attention to it, but he fought a mandatory. Okay, move on. Now we got Billy Joe and then potentially Caleb Plant. And if Canelo becomes undisputed champion, who knows what he could do, right? Well, this is the episode for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hit 1K followers on Instagram. Thank you so much. Can't believe how fast we've gotten there. You guys and your support, it means the world to me. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow at Good Boxing Podcast. Again, if you also want to see the video podcast, I'm going to upload this to IGTV, but on YouTube, Good Boxing Podcast is the channel. Please support if you feel like you want to kind of see my reactions or just listen to the audio, which is totally fine as well. Thank you so much again. Have a great day.